Welcome back to Beyond the Badge. Before we begin today, I want you to stop whatever you're doing. Put your hand over your heart, because what you are about to hear is the kind of story that reminds you why love, real love, never truly dies. It just waits. It waits in the quiet places, in the things we leave behind, in the promises we make when we have nothing left but our word. Stay with us. It was the kind of morning that cuts right through you. The financial district was already alive. Limousines at the curb, men in $1,000 suits moving with the confidence of people who have never once had to wonder where their next meal was coming from. Crystal towers of glass caught the pale winter light. Coffee steamed, phones rang, deals were made. And then the door opened. Not with power, not with purpose, the way a door opens when someone isn't sure they're allowed to come inside. She was small, maybe 9 years old, though the months had thinned her face in ways that made her look older than any child should ever have to look. Her name was Lily Harper, and Lily was black. Beautiful, quiet, careful Lily, with big brown eyes that had seen too much, and a spirit that had somehow survived all of it. Her sneakers were worn through at the toe. Her jacket was a size too small, the kind of thin that does nothing against a January wind. Her braids, the ones her mama used to do every Sunday morning on the kitchen floor, were still neat, still perfect. Because even when everything else had fallen apart, Lily had held on to that. She had held on to every last piece of her mother she could. And pressed tightly against her chest, with both small hands wrapped around it as if it was the most precious thing in the world, was a faded white debit card. She stepped into the lobby of Grand Crest Bank, warmth wrapped around her. For just a moment she closed her eyes, just breathed. Then she felt it, the silence that wasn't silence. Heads turning, conversations dropping to whispers, eyes moving up and down, taking her in, deciding what she was, deciding she didn't belong. A woman in a cream blazer leaned to her colleague and whispered behind her hand. A man near the desk muttered without looking up, "Someone should call security." Lily heard it. She heard every word. But she had learned something in these past terrible months, something hunger teaches faster than any school ever could. She had learned that humiliation is loud, but need is louder, and she kept walking. 2 weeks before that morning, Lily had been sitting in a hospital room. The machines beeped softly, the room smelled of antiseptic and something else, something quieter, something final. Her mother, Rachel Harper, lay in the narrow bed. Rachel had worked 2 jobs her entire adult life, a diner in the mornings, a cleaning service in the evenings. She raised Lily alone in a small apartment with a radiator that clicked all night and a window that looked out on a parking lot. She braided Lily's hair every Sunday morning. She packed lunches even when there wasn't much to put in them. She told Lily every single night without fail, "You are somebody. Don't you ever let this world tell you different." And now she was lying in this bed, pale, small, fading. On that last lucid evening, Rachel reached out and took Lily's hand. She pressed something small and cool into her palm, the white debit card. "Sweetheart," her voice was barely a whisper now, "promise me you'll keep this safe, even if the world turns its back on you." Lily looked at the card. She didn't understand. They had nothing. She knew that. She had heard the overdue notices. She had seen the empty refrigerator. She had learned to go to sleep without complaining about being hungry. "What is it for, Mama?" Rachel smiled, the kind of smile that cost everything a person has left. "One day, when you feel completely alone, go to the bank." Those were the last full words she ever spoke. 3 days later, Rachel Harper was gone. And Lily, 9 years old, with braids her mother had done and a card her mother had given her, was alone in the world. She reached the service desk. Her hands were shaking. A security guard stepped forward, not cruelly, but with the practiced look of a man doing what the room was silently asking him to do. Before he could speak, a woman named Clara stepped around the desk. Clara had worked at Grand Crest for 11 years. She had seen a great many things. But something about this child, the way she stood, straight-backed, chin up, like she had rehearsed this moment 100 times just to survive it, made Clara move first. She knelt down to Lily's level. "Hi there, baby. I'm Clara. Let me help you." Something in Lily's shoulders came down just slightly. She held out the card. I need to check the balance, please." Clara looked at the card. Then she looked at the terminal she needed, the main system, the archived account system, the one that sat at the desk of the man in the center of the room. The man named Damian Cole. Damian Cole had not felt genuinely surprised in over a decade. He had built companies, broken competitors. He was the kind of man who looked at numbers and saw power, who looked at people and saw what they were worth, who had walked through rooms like this one his entire life and never once thought about who was not allowed in. When Clara guided Lily to his desk, he leaned back in his chair and looked at her with the mild, amused expression of a man watching something that doesn't quite fit the picture. He held out his hand. Lily placed the card in it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, "What are you hoping to find?" Lily looked at the floor, then back at him. "I just need to know if there's enough." "Enough for what?" She swallowed hard. The lobby had gone very quiet. "Enough so I don't have to sleep outside tonight." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The chandeliers hummed, the city roared silently beyond the glass, and every single person in that marble lobby who had whispered or stared or muttered something under their breath felt the full weight of what they had done. Damian inserted the card, a reflex, professional, automatic. He expected nothing, a few $100s maybe, a forgotten account. The screen loaded. He glanced at it, looked away, looked back. His fingers went still. He leaned forward, refreshed the screen, checked again. The number did not change. It was not small. It was not modest. It was staggering. Millions of dollars accumulated quietly over years, carefully invested through a private trust, growing in patient silence while this little girl slept in shelters and walked through wind in a jacket that didn't fit and pressed a white card against her chest like a prayer. The advisors behind Damian stepped closer without meaning to. One of them made a sound, soft, involuntary. Clara covered her mouth. And Damian Cole, the man who measured everything, sat completely still and measured nothing. There was a name on the trust, Arthur Bennett. Arthur Bennett had been 81 years old when he died, a retired school teacher, no children, no living relatives who were close. He lived simply and quietly. And in the final years of his life, he volunteered twice a week at a community resource center near the edge of the city, the kind of place that serves soup without questions and asks nothing in return. It was there that he met Rachel Harper. Rachel, who came on Wednesday evenings to pass out blankets. Rachel, who brought her little girl along, because there was no one else to watch her. Lily, who would sit in the corner with her coloring books, who looked up every time a new person walked through the door and smiled at them. Not to get something, not because anyone told her to, just because she still believed, in that pure, unguarded way that only certain children believe, that people were mostly good. Arthur watched her for nearly 2 years. He watched her give her crayons to other children without being asked. He watched her carry coffee cups to elderly volunteers when her small arms could barely manage the weight. He watched her sit beside lonely old men and draw pictures of houses with big windows and give every single picture away without keeping one for herself. He never said a word to Rachel about what he was planning. He simply visited his attorney one autumn afternoon, and he gave everything he had, every dollar of a careful, quiet lifetime, to a little black girl who colored pictures in a corner and smiled at strangers. He set it to remain sealed until she came to a bank and asked for it herself. He wanted it to find her only when she truly needed saving, and he had trusted, with the full faith of a man who had watched her long enough to know, that she would walk through that door herself, that she would not wait to be rescued, that she would keep walking. Damian Cole rose from his chair. He looked at Lily, really looked at her. The thin arms, the careful posture of a child who had learned never to lean on anything because nothing had ever held. The dried track of a tear on her cheek that had fallen some time before she walked through those doors. And the look in her eyes. Not begging, not broken, just waiting. The way people wait when they have survived everything, and they are not sure what comes next. Clara knelt beside Lily. Her voice was soft and steady. "Lily, this card your mama gave you, there's money in this account. A great deal of money. Enough to keep you safe. Enough for everything." Lily stared at her. She did not cry right away. Children who have been surviving on their own for a while, they don't cry right away when the good news comes. First, there's the checking. Is this real? Is this the part where it gets taken back? "Is it enough?" she whispered. "Enough so I don't have to be scared anymore?" Clara did not hesitate. "Yes, baby, it is more than enough." Then Lily cried. Not loudly, not the way crying sounds in the movies, the way children cry when they have been holding it for so long that when it finally comes, it comes in slow, shaking waves. She looked up through her tears at Damian Cole, and she asked him, in the smallest, most honest voice, "Does this mean my mom wasn't wrong about me?" That question, that single question, broke something open inside a man who had spent 30 years making sure nothing could. He cleared his throat once, twice. His jaw tightened. And then, quietly, more quietly than he had spoken in years, "No, it means she believed in you more than this world ever did." Someone in that lobby was crying, more than one person. The woman who had whispered was pressing her fingers to her lips. The guard near the door had taken off his cap and was holding it against his chest. The man who suggested calling security had walked to the window and was looking at nothing, blinking hard. That night, Damian personally arranged a warm hotel suite for Lily. Hot food, clean clothes, safety. He did not delegate it. He sat with her until the right people arrived. He worked quietly in the weeks that followed to make sure Lily was placed with a family that deserved her. He later funded a scholarship in Arthur Bennett's name at the community center. He never spoke publicly about any of it, but those who worked alongside him said he was different after that morning. Slower, somehow, in the best way, more willing to look up from the numbers. That night, Lily sat by the window of the hotel room. The city lights came on, one by one, as the evening fell over the skyline. She held the white card in both hands, the card her mama had pressed into her palm in a room that smelled of goodbye. The card a quiet old man, a man who had no children of his own, had filled with love so patient, so deliberate, so faithful, that it had waited years just to find her. She pressed it gently against her chest, the way she had held it all morning in the cold, and she whispered, "Mom, you kept your promise." Outside, the city moved on. A light came on in a window. A stranger held open a door. A little girl pressed her forehead to the glass and looked out at a world that had been so unkind to her, and chose, quietly, bravely, to believe in it one more time. There is a kind of love that does not need to be seen to be real. It works in quiet rooms, without applause, without anyone watching. It is the love of a mother who leaves a card instead of an explanation. It is the love of an old man who gives his entire life's worth to a child who gave her crayons away and never kept a single one. It is the love that says, I see you, I believe in you, and I will make sure the world knows it, even after I am gone. Lily Harper walked into that bank with nothing visible to her name, and she walked out carrying the faith of every person who had ever quietly, fiercely refused to stop believing in her. That is the lesson. Love, when it is real, always keeps its promises, even when it has to wait, even when the whole room has already decided it isn't coming. If this story reached something inside you, if it made you think of your own mother, or your own child, or someone who believed in you when no one else did, please hit that subscribe button right now. Because Beyond the Badge exists for exactly this, to find the stories the world nearly missed and make sure they are never forgotten. Subscribe because every quiet hero deserves a voice. Subscribe because love always keeps its promises. Subscribe because a little girl in braids walked into a marble lobby with nothing but her mama's faith and changed an entire room. Subscribe so no story like Lily's is ever left unheard. Subscribe for every mother who kept her word, for every child who kept walking. Until next time, we'll see you beyond the badge. Take care of each other.